Hey guys, my name is Francisco Hernandez, and today I'm doing another episode in my Building the Shot series. If you guys are not familiar with what that is, it's basically a step-by-step tutorial where I go over how I created a certain image that I'm going to be highlighting in every single episode. I show you guys the straight out of the camera shots and explain a bit of the process that was involved in taking those images and how I came to get that final image. I've done a couple episodes of this series already, so if you guys haven't seen those, you can do so by checking out the description area below. I'll leave links to those episodes there and clicking in the top right corner of the screen, which I believe is this area right here. This video series is actually based off of text-based tutorials that I've already made and shared on either my Instagram page at FJHphoto or in my Facebook lighting group called Learn to Light an Off-Camera Flash Lighting Community. The reason why I share them there first is because they're text-based, which is just very easy to make. So if you guys are interested in seeing those future tutorials in advance, you definitely want to check me out on my Facebook lighting group called Learn to Light an Off-Camera Flash Lighting Community or on my Facebook or Instagram page at FJHphoto. If you guys are interested in knowing what gear I use for this shot, I'll leave links to everything that I use in the description area below, and also leave a link to my kit page where it'll have all the gear, but also explain a little bit, well, I explain a little bit about the gear as well, so you guys can check out either the description area below or my kit page to see what I used. All right, so let's go ahead and just start talking about today's tutorial, which is going to be on this image here of my friend and model Ericka back in 2016, like I mentioned before, when we shot in the summer. This is actually one of my first kind of conceptual photo shoots. I did have a theme in mind, so I wanted to go for what I looked up as boho chic, and I came up with like these kind of items of clothing, so that's why she wore that, and it ended up working really well. If it's not technically boho chic, then whatever, it still looked good. But yeah, this is the shot that we're gonna be talking about today, but this is the final result, and this is how it looked like in the beginning. As you can see, it's very overexposed and it's not ideal at all, and you guys might be taking these shots as well and getting frustrated like I was frustrated when I started using off-camera flash as well. So let me go ahead and explain a little bit about this shot. Actually, before I start, I want to let you guys know that I have heard your feedback, and I am going to start talking about the lighting position and the modifiers and different gear that were involved in this process in the next couple of tutorials, not this one, because I do want to keep it a little bit more simple. And if I talk about other things, this video can become 20-30 minutes long. So I just want to talk about the flash exposure first, because that's something that's very crucial to taking the photos. So I want to talk about flash exposure first, and then in upcoming tutorials I will talk about a lot of the other gear choices and why I made those choices. Okay, so in this shot, again, like I said before, it's very bright and overexposed. So I had the light at full power, which was too much power, of course, which is why she became overexposed. So the easiest way to counter that is to go ahead and just lower that output on the light. So I was at full power, and then I went to 1/8 power. But to go over a little bit about why I make those choices in terms of how much power I go from, I went from full power and then I went to 1/8 power, 1/8 power. It's as simple as me just thinking of in terms of how much stops of light, in terms of having it. I saw that this light was very, very bright, and I was trying to think in terms of like if you guys have ever edited a shot in Lightroom and you adjust the exposure a bit, I try to do that in terms of full stops of a light. So in this shot at full power, which is 1/1, I thought it was way too bright, but I thought in terms of half power would still be too strong, 1/4 power would still be a little bit strong, and in 1/8 power would probably be just right. This is all just a guess because I don't use a light meter, and a light meter would be convenient for getting the shot exposed correctly, but high-speed sync light meters are around $600, and plus from what I do in terms of guessing the power output, and if you were to use a light meter, it's pretty much the same amount of time, so I don't mind not using one. So yeah, I thought this shot at full power was too bright, and then going to 1/8 power would be just where I wanted it to be, and that actually ended up being how I wanted it to look like, which is how it looks like right here. So you can see that the power of the light is a lot less bright. Again, I went from full power to 1/8 power, and it ended up giving me a good exposure on Ericka here. So at this point, the exposure on Ericka is fine, but that's not the end of the image taking process. I felt like there were a couple of other things that need to be adjusted before I was happy with the shot. And in this shot here, I felt like the background was just a little too boring. There was too much negative space. So I wanted to get a different background. And at this point, at the level that I was taking this shot, I was on the ground shooting a little bit up. And a quick pro tip for doing that, for shooting at that angle, you want the model to kind of do a little bit of a lean forward, or else they'll look like they're like this. But yeah, back on point. I felt like the background was too boring, so I wanted to just adjust my angle. So I went from being on the ground with Ericka leaning a little bit forward, and I went to eye level and Ericka being, regular position. And that gave me a different background that I was much happier with. But there's also another thing that I wanted to adjust as well. Although I do normally like shadows and I use them frequently in my work, I felt like there was too much shadows going on the left side of her face, camera right side. So I wanted to adjust not just myself and the angle that I was at from being on the ground to eye level, but also the position of the light. So in this shot here, the light is a little bit off axis, which just means off of my position where I'm shooting. It was a little bit too off axis. So I wanted to bring it a little bit more on axis, which means closer to my position where I'm shooting. And that's going to move those shadows that are on her face to be a little bit different and then a little bit more favorable to what I was aiming for. There's actually a third thing that I adjusted in this next shot that I'm about to show you. So the first thing was my angle. I went from ground to eye level. Second thing was the light. Third thing was that I felt like there could be a little bit more pop coming from Ericka from the shot, a little bit more separation. And the way that I was going to add that separation is by adding a light. So I add a Streak Light 360 TTL, which is also known as the Godox AD362, camera right and behind her. So here's the shot with all of those adjustments, those 3 adjustments that I made. You can see that the background is clearly different. There's no longer just a lot of sky going on in the background, which again, I felt like had too much negative space. There's a nice colorful tree going on. And actually that tree, if you pay attention, there's a little bit of color going on the side. That's actually from the sun that was actually just about to set. So all of that sun was making a little bit of a gradient of different colors of green. So that was a really nice background. And that's the first thing that I adjusted. The second thing I adjusted is moving that light again to be more on camera axis, which is where I was shooting. And by doing so, you move those shadows to be from less off the side of the face and more towards the center in more favorable positions for me in this particular shot. I usually do like shadows, but in this shot here, I wanted them to be more on axis in this area right here. The third thing that you'll see going on differently in this shot compared to the last one is, again, I added that second light source, but what you can see going on in this shot is that light source is just too bright. In the next shot that I'm about to show you, I do reduce the output of the light, but I wanted to let you guys know, just in case you do like the shot as is, I wanted to let you guys know why I don't like it. And it's as simple as it's providing a distraction from Ericka. By being too bright on the side of her face, your eyes go to that brightness, and I don't want to ever have the subject not be the main focus of my portraits. So that's why I didn't want that brightness on the side and why I do reduce the output in this next shot. Actually, before I show you that next shot, what I want you guys to focus on in here is not the lighting, but more so the pose, because that's something that I do adjust in the next shot that I'm about to show you. Ericka's pose in this photo is fine, but it felt like her arm being close to her body just made her body seem bigger than what it actually is. And it also felt like the position of her neck was just a little bit too like this, where it was just, I don't know, it's just not something that I find very pleasant to the eye. So I wanted her to just drop that shoulder down, and by turning her body a little bit towards me and giving a little bit of separation from her arm to her body, it'd be a lot better, which is actually what I found to be better in the next shot right there. So finally, when I took this photo, I was happy with everything that was going on in the photo. One thing that I do stress very much about whenever I take my portraits is having a good expression. So when Ericka nailed this expression here and the lighting was exactly where I wanted it to be, I went from full power to 1/8 on the main light, and then I went from half power to 1/8 power as well on the rim light. Those exposures were exactly where I needed them. Her expression was great. Her pose is now better. The background is also exactly where I want it to be. So I was really happy with this shot, and it's why I decided to edit this photo. Of course, there are a couple of things in this photo that I do need to correct, that I do correct in post, but this is something that you definitely should aim for. And one of the things, of course, that you can see in the top left corner of the image is the octabox being present in the shot. What I usually do to correct this, if I really, really like the shot and I don't want to have to take another, is I'll take a secondary plate shot, which just means taking a photo of the background, because I can use that photo of the background and add it over this shot so I can create a final photo without that octabox being in the way. When you do this, it's very crucial that you try to get into the exact same composition that you were in when you took that previous shot, if you're not already in that same composition and just waiting for the light to be moved. And you also want to make sure that the focus is not adjusted as well. If the background is blurry when you took that last shot and then that second shot it's in focus, it's just not going to match up well. Also, for the plate shot, the subject does not have to be in the photo while you're taking it, so they can just relax while you're taking that shot. The only other thing that I would adjust for this shot in terms of post editing would probably just remove some of the flyaway hairs and as well as some of the strings off of the fabric that are coming off of the outfit. But aside from that, that's pretty much it. A lot of you guys have asked me to make editing tutorials, and I will make at least one sometime soon. But for this shot, I'll just show you guys the before and after in terms of editing and explain a little bit on the screen or right now what I did. So here's the before and after. A couple of things I did was dodge and burn. I also did a little bit of color toning. I believe I also removed some of the blemishes off her skin, removed that octobox as well. And I also believe I increased the vibrance of the colors in Photoshop as well, just to make them a little bit more rich. So that's pretty much that tutorial on that image. But what I want to show you right now is 4 other photos. I want to show you 2 photos that I think really show off-camera flash. And that's this shot here with Ericka being completely in the dark. You can see that there's no lighting on her. That's why it says not available on the bottom of the screen. But the background is exactly where I wanted it to be in terms of exposure. And I wanted to go for a little bit more of a dramatic look for this shot. In this shot here, you can see the light is now on, and you can see exactly what it's doing because you have that first shot to show you exactly how she looks like in the dark, and this shot here to show you how it looks like now with the light on. Remember a second ago when I told you guys that you can take a second plate shot with the octobox out of the photo and use that to kind of act as a puzzle piece to place over the first image that you took? Well, I could have done that right now with this photo, and because I'm bored, I'll just go ahead and do it and show you guys the shot right now. So although I took that shot with the octobox in the frame to act as more of like a behind the scenes and show you guys how the light looked like and what it's doing, I actually could just make it a final shot if I wanted to by using that secondary plate shot. So yeah, that was more of like a demonstration on what the light does more than me aiming for a final shot. But I did want to kind of just show you guys a demonstration of me describing that plate shot and showing you guys how I do that. So now on to the next 2 shots that I wanted to show you, which were behind the scenes photos. And for this shot here, which is the only behind the scenes photo that I had of the shot that I talked about today, this is the only one that I had. So this is why I had to make a little bit of a cartoon animation over there for Ashley. But actually recently I asked my friend Hector, who's actually there in the behind the scenes photo recording some footage. I asked him if he had some video of the shot and of me taking the photo. He did, but it was very, very quick footage. So I just took a still from it, and that's what you see right here with Ashley kind of getting ready to move the octobox into place. And you also see Eli right there moving the light, and Ericka also getting into place as well. And I wanted to show you guys those behind the scenes photos so you guys can see a little bit more of how the shot actually looked like. And I'm very much a visual learner myself, so I wanted to show you guys that because it kind of just completes the whole learning process to me. So yeah, those were the behind the scenes photos. I wish I had a behind the scenes video, but I don't. But yeah, I do have a lot more behind the scenes videos from my other photo shoots that you guys can find on my channel. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am taking your feedback on these tutorials, and I will implement them in future episodes. So make sure you go ahead and leave me a comment letting me know what you guys want to see in these next episodes. A lot of you guys have asked me about adding editing into the video, also describing the pieces of gear and why I chose those pieces of gear. So I will do that in future episodes. So stay tuned, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, like the video if it helped, and again, comment and let me know your thoughts. And again, if you guys want to see future tutorials in advance, you can do so by checking out my Instagram page at FJHphoto to see the text-based versions there, and also in my Facebook lighting group called Learn to Light, an off-camera flash lighting community. All right, take care guys, and I'll see you in the next video.